Magnolia Wu Unfolds It All by Chanel Miller. Chapter 1 The ch1 Bubble's Birthday. Magnolia Wu was almost 10. She was eager to turn 10 because the number 9 looked like a sprout coming out of the ground, small and easily stomped. 10 was a strong two-digit number that looked like a sword and a shield that belonged to someone who was about to conquer the world. But Magnolia Wu was not about to conquer the world, because all summer she'd been stuck inside ch1 Bubble's laundromat, where her parents had worked since she was born. And there would be no birthday party. Magnolia did not have a single friend in New York City. This was not an observation to be mean. If anybody asked her, she would have said the same thing. She used to have one friend, but that friend moved away to the suburbs because of grass. Many families moved out of the city to be closer to grass. In addition to being alone, she was too hot. It was so hot that snails nearly melted on the sidewalk, and pigeons seemed to be panting. Magnolia sweat on her nose, behind her knees, even inside her belly button. Her internal organs boiled like sweet potatoes. At least that's what she felt like. Magnolia crouched on the floor of the laundromat, stretching her arm beneath a washing machine until she found what she was looking for, a single sock. She pulled out the dusty sock, took a thumbtack from a wooden box, and pinned the sock onto a bulletin board. The board was full of lost socks, solo and abandoned, separated from their pairs. To Magnolia, each sock was a mystery, and she waited for the day that their owners would return to claim them. She wondered where the socks had been, if they'd trekked through mud or snow, climbed a flowering hillside, or danced on the Broadway stages. But so far, no one had come back. The socks forgotten, or replaced by whatever other important things adults were out there doing. As Magnolia stared at the socks on this very hot day, she began to wonder if she was silly for thinking they'd lead to anything. Most of her classmates were on vacation for the summer, which meant lobster rolls and berry picking, and frog catching, and boats with napkin white sails. Meanwhile, Magnolia collected quarters from the washers and dryers, helped her parents sift through the mails, and restocked the detergent. As she looked around at the spinning machines, she wondered if she'd be stuck here the rest of her life, inside the loop of endless loads and comings and goings of customers. Magnolia used to be excited by her daily tasks. When she was little, Magnolia's mom fed clothes into the circular mouths of the washing machines, pretending they were robots that slurped up sleeves. Mr. Wu rolled Magnolia around in the metal laundry cart that he nicknamed the Cage Ferrari. They made paper sailor hats and pretended they were in a submarine, staring into the washing machine window like it was a dark, stormy sea. She was even allowed to paint a fire-breathing dragon on the laundry delivery cart attached to his bicycle, but it came out looking like a lizard bolting orange juice. Whenever Magnolia asked her mom why they never went on vacation, Mrs. Wu's answer was always the same. No time, too busy, too expensive. The only times she'd seen her mom rest were when she watched movies on her laptop or snacked on dried salted plums on the phone with Auntie May. Magnolia hoped they could at least create a spa day, placing cucumber slices over their eyes, but she knew her mom would never waste the food by putting it on her face like that. Luckily, Magnolia had Mr. Pants, the family dog. The Wu hadn't planned on getting a dog since dogs shed hair on clothes and hair causes customers to sneeze and customers to write bad reviews on the internet. But one winter night, he wandered in and burrowed beneath a warm pile of laundry. The next morning, he emerged with a pair of pants on his head and secured his position in the family. So, this was how the days passed, full of heat, dangling socks, a sleeping dog, and rumbling machines, while her dad paddled through the city making deliveries, and her mom folded mountains of clothes until the sky turned black. On the morning Magnolia turned 10, she decided that if she was going to be stuck all summer in the Big Apple, she'd find a way to be a wild worm, freely wiggling and chewing through all of it. She pocketed some crumpled dollar bills to buy soft pretzels from a nearby street vendor, then licked chunks of salt off the pretzel's skin. Her eyes followed the clouds that grazed past the tip of the Empire State Building, half hoping they would pop. She sculpted gray sharks out of dryer lint, displayed them in a line atop the cash register. Finally, she illustrated a frowning chimney on their no smoking sign. Then she was out of things to do. Right around lunchtime, Mr. Wu emerged from the back room yelling, "Happy birthday!" He'd safety pinned candy around a cloth tape measure and draped it like a necklace around Magnolia's neck. Mrs. Wu presented Magnolia with a bowl of red bean ice cream in one hand, a thick scented candle in the other. Mrs. Wu believed that birthday candles were a needless expense. If they already had a large scented candles, Magnolia could blow those out instead. "A candle is a candle. Why buy teeny tiny ones?" she'd said. Magnolia hesitated before blowing it out, knowing that as soon as she did, her parents' attention would be pulled back into work, so she took a long inhale, then blew out the candle with her nose to amuse her dad. She assumed that was it, and that the day would return to its regular programming, but Mrs. Wu said, "I have a surprise." Mrs. Wu said that her old friend, Miss Lam, had recently moved to New York from Santa Cruz, California, and she had a daughter Magnolia's age named Iris. Usually, when Mrs. Wu tried to set Magnolia up with one of her friend's kids, it was not good. That was called a forced relationship, and the chances that their stars would align were extremely low. Once, Magnolia met one of her mom's friend's kids named Kyle. Kyle showed her his ant farm, and it looked like if you took the period at the end of a sentence and poured about 2,000 of them into a glass box. All the ants were so dry and dead in there that Magnolia lost all the trust in her mom to make proper friend arrangements. "That's nice," said Magnolia. "I'm happy to meet her someday." "You'll meet her today. She's on her way over," said Mrs. Wu. "Miss Lam is picking up her laundry and she's bringing Iris." "Here? She's coming here?" said Magnolia. Magnolia had never been comfortable with people her age visiting the laundromat. In fact, whenever a classmate entered, Magnolia ducked below the counter or burrowed inside a pile of clothing to hide. She wasn't proud of this, but felt it was necessary for her social survival. At school, a boy named Aspen had a habit of tossing his hoodies at her and saying, "I'll give you $2 to wash this." When she told him to stop, he'd smile and say, "What? I thought your parents made a living off of sweaty clothing." When Magnolia saw the laundromat through a classmate's eyes, she became self-conscious of the smallest things, the Christmas ornaments dangling from their potted plants year-round, the statue of Queen Gong in his shrine, surrounded by oranges, and the burning incense set out as offerings, the pile of strangers' underwear stacked on the counter, the recycled peanut butter jars they used as pencil holders. The way her dad wore a Snoopy sweater and the floppy sandals, while other dads strolled down the street buttoned up in crisp collars and polished shoes. Can't I meet her somewhere else? Said Magnolia. Just then, the bell above the door tingled. In walked a small woman in a maroon tracksuit stamped with the words salty mussels, followed by a girl Magnolia's age. Miss Lamb was an aerobics instructor at Salt Mussels Fitness Studio down the street. To Magnolia, the name sounded like a seafood restaurant, but sweat was technically salty, so she supposed it made sense. Ah, is that Magnolia? Said Miss Lamb. You may not remember, but I met you when you were this big. Miss Lamb held out her hands as if she were holding an invisible loaf of bread. Magnolia obviously did not remember meeting her because when you are a baby, your brain is basically a lumpy of silly putty. Miss Lamb helped us when we moved in, said Mrs. Wu, carried a washing machine over her head. Mrs. Wu handed Miss Lamb her folded bag of laundry, and the two moms began catching up, which left Magnolia alone with Iris. Iris looked at Magnolia but didn't say a word. So, said Magnolia, both of our names are flowers. I sometimes wish my name was Rachel, said Iris. Magnolia brushed this comment aside and made another attempt. What's the Santa Cruz like? Said Magnolia. It's like heaven, I guess. Blue ocean, white clouds. How are you liking your New York City? Said Magnolia. Iris made a small frown. The subway is too crowded. The air smells like baked diapers. The other day I saw a dead rat in a puddle, guts floating everywhere. She's a gross person, thought Magnolia. The city has everything you need, said Magnolia. Name one thing this city doesn't have. A mountain, said Iris. Who needs mountains? Magnolia thought. You can glide up elevators and get better views. She was about to give up befriending a girl who insisted on insulting her home. But then Mr. Pants trotted over and licked Iris's hand, and Iris did not say, Ew! She said, Hello to you too. And Magnolia warmed up to her in that instant. I'll show you around, said Magnolia. Magnolia pointed out the cooler of lychee popsicles and the bins of black sesame, red bean, and matcha ice cream below the counter. Being chilling in Chinese meant ice cream, which the Wus kept for customers to enjoy while waiting. Magnolia was only allowed to eat one popsicle a day. She used to secretly eat two, throwing one popsicle stick in the trash and burying the second stick outside to hide the evidence. But one day, Mr. Pants dug up enough popsicle sticks to build a fire, and woo, her mom was mad. Magnolia showed Iris the pencil marks on the door frame where her dad had measured Magnolia's growth, an asterisk beside the lines where she'd been measured with the shoes on. She poured blue liquid laundry detergent into a cup and called it alien saliva. She stood on a chair and pulled down her shoebox of secret messages that was full of crumpled notes, receipts, and ticket stubs that had fallen out of customers' pockets, along with chopsticks, batteries, foreign coins, crayons, and cough drops. Iris picked a seashell out of the box and admired it. Finally, I present to you the sock board, said Magnolia. Magnolia swept her arm across her proudest contribution to the laundromat. Iris took a moment to look over the entire collection. Has anybody ever come back to get them? Said Iris. Magnolia shook her head. Not yet. I'm worried they are lonely. I just have to be patient. Miss Lamb came over and squeezed Iris, and Magnolia noticed her bicep was the size of a lemon. It was miraculous. I'll pick you up later this afternoon, said Miss Lamb. Have fun with your new friend. As soon as Miss Lamb left, Iris looked a little sad. It occurred to Magnolia that maybe Iris had been bitter about New York because she was homesick, and that feeling was tainting her view of everything glorious the city had to offer. Magnolia was confident Iris would love the city if she just got to know it better first. Magnolia took out 2 lychee popsicles for them to enjoy. Let's play cocoons, said Magnolia. We wrap our entire bodies in sheets, then bust out and flap around like butterflies. Actually, cocoons turn into moths. Chrysalises turn into butterflies, said Iris. Tomato, said Magnolia. Iris stood still while Magnolia circled her with the sheet, slowly sealing her up. Eventually, only Iris's eyes were poking out, and Magnolia looked at this blinking person sealed in a sheet and decided they were going to be very good friends. Magnolia had just begun cocooning herself when the door flew open, the clattering bell shattering the peaceful atmosphere. I am never coming here again, a woman yelled. Do you understand me? Magnolia watched from the hole in her sheet, wincing from the force of each word. If the woman had the speech bubbles, they would have been spiky like sea urchins, jutting out like spears. This is a $200 blouse you ruined, and I am utterly infuriated. The woman's face was flushed red, and she was screaming so loud her earrings quivered. She flapped the shrunken blouse in front of Mrs. Wu, sweating her face with silk. Sorry, said Mrs. Wu. I'm sorry. Read the instructions. If you can't understand English, you shouldn't be running a business. The woman chucked the blouse at Mrs. Wu, and Magnolia watched as it engulfed her mom's face like a floppy stingray before sliding off. The woman grabbed her purse, turned to leave, then pointed directly at the sock board. Dirty socks as decoration. Disgusting. No wonder this place isn't functioning. The woman slammed the door, causing the sock board to swing from side to side before falling with a quiet thud to the floor. Magnolia stood in shocked silence, her sheet slightly unraveled, popsicle juice dripping down her elbow. Even when the blouse woman was gone, her anger lingered in the air, thick like smoke, causing Magnolia's throat to burn and her eyes to blur. She hated when people yelled at her parents like that. It had happened a few times before, but Magnolia would always retreat to the back room where the harsh sounds became muffled and far away. Mrs. Wu turned to the girls. Don't worry, she said, gently swatting her hand in the air. Nothing, nothing. Magnolia stared at the sock board, lying face down on the ground. The woman seemed to confirm a doubt in Magnolia's mind that it was a stupid idea, advertising customers' lost items, and embarrassing that she'd hoped for answers. She felt like she'd somehow made things worse, which was why, without a word, she walked right over to the sock board, picked it up, brought it outside, and leaned it against the pile of black trash bags on the curb. When Magnolia came back inside, her mom had already returned to folding clothes into perfectly crisp squares. Iris's sheet was in crumpled pile around her feet. Magnolia didn't know what to do or say. She wished her mom would abandon the piles of clothes, lock the door, and spend the evening with her, eating ice cream, talking about what happened, with nobody coming in to bother them. But Magnolia knew the incident was over and would never be brought up again. So she stayed quiet while the mood stayed sunken, as her chest ached and anger simmered throughout her body. She thought that would be the end of the story, but only because she couldn't see the inside of Iris's head. If she could, she'd see that Iris already had a plan.